Are you ready?
I don't think they're ready.
LA, are you ready?
I don't think I'm ready. Okay, so this is before the show has started. If you notice, this guy Salvo gets on the stage and he starts the chant, which is the F Def Noodles chant. Def Noodles gets pissed off, wants to start the show, pushes him in the back, then hides behind his friends. And this is one of the times the sound went out, which I addressed later. If you guys want to see the full video, I'll link it down below in the description.
He's charging me! Your boy's charging me!
Is my mic on?
You want it? No. He pushed my toe! He pushed my toe!
Stop!
So, here's what we're gonna do. You either sit down and you act f***ing nice until you get to your part, or down! Get Steve out here! Waffle man! We ain't bringing no bird for your ass! He pushed me!
He ain't got no beef, so keep it cool, right? Just don't know wrong niggas do that. You right? We just
we got people who are paid to be on the show, okay?
No.
You gotta ruin for everybody.
You do that YouTube shit with him. With me, I'm just here to make y'all laugh, okay?
Yeah, be Christian first.
The hell is wrong with Israel? You joke ass.
That's what I call a roast battle right there.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
What did I just watch? What's up, everybody? Thai Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Okay, I'm only talking about this because I've had a few people ask me to talk about the Def Noodles situation and the roast battles that he's running. And this was before what happened last night, because apparently last night it was the second of their roast battles, which they're calling the Super Roast Battle. The first thing I want to say is, attention LA comics. Do not do this show. You are not making yourselves look good. There's no way for you to win in this show in its format. I don't care if you win your little loser roast battle, and I shouldn't be so mean, but goddamn, I just feel like my time was wasted. I watched the full hour and a half because last night there was this huge situation where this other YouTuber had shown up from, I think it was Ohio. I could be wrong on that. Please don't come to my shows trying to start shit because I didn't say the right state that you're from. I don't know. I remember at one point somebody said that they love some Bloomington pussy. Damn it. This is the level. This is the level we were dealing with. And I know one of the comedians that's involved with it, Arthur Hamilton. I met him in Phoenix. I don't know if he's actually from Phoenix or if he just lived in Phoenix, went to school there for a little while. But I know I met Arthur Hamilton in Phoenix. Arthur Hamilton, I know you've been in LA for at least 5 years now. You probably have 6, 7 years in stand-up. I don't know what the hell you're doing. And I don't mean to be mean about it. You know, I really do like you, Arthur. But at the same time, last night, whatever you were doing there with that show was absolutely horrible. And maybe you guys were smoking weed in the back. I don't know what was going on. But if you guys are smoking weed in a situation like that, it's not what you need to be doing. Let me tell you guys a little bit about what happened. They're saying that Def Noodles has assaulted this other YouTuber. I think that's a way to put it, because none of these people, outside of maybe some of the people that were on stage in the roast battles themselves, are comedians or identify as comedians. But the behavior that was coming from the two people that are YouTubers, because Def Noodles, if you guys aren't familiar, I guess I should back up a little bit. Sorry, I'm just caught up because I've been through a lot. Like, watching this was really a lot on me. Understand that I personally do have a history with the roast battle, the original roast battle, the roast battle that happens at the Comedy Store, Brian Moses' roast battle, formerly Brian Moses's and Rel Battle's roast battle. That is the official one. I have judged it twice. I was the first ever transgender comedian to be a judge of the roast battle. Sorry, Fifi Dosh and anybody else that may be transgender and come behind me, but just understand I busted down that door for you. And for anybody that's like, are you transgender? I identify as transgender, but I am a biological male. I'm just a troll is what I am. But I'm a transgender troll, so respect my pronouns, she and her. But... and I don't even care if you get them wrong. I'm a troll. It's what it is. But I identify as transgender, and people just have to accept that. Get with the times. But anyway, here's the deal. This isn't about me, but just to let you guys know, I do have a relationship with the original roast battle. And let me tell you, the original roast battle, the one at the Comedy Store, is part of a business. It's an actual thing. It's been on Comedy Central. When you go and do it, there's a set list, there's an order, there's a way that it's set up. It's completely professionally run. The times that I judged it, I know I judged it with Jeff Ross before, Ian Carmel, the Sklar brothers. There was another time that I judged it, and I can't remember who all was on the judges panel that particular night, but Ron White was there one time when I was judging it. He was not an official judge, though. He was just hanging out, saying funny stuff and being cool. But it's a madhouse. Don't get me wrong. It is a madhouse, but it's ran in a very professional way. So what happened is there's this comedian, excuse me, I keep saying comedian, but I don't mean that. And I'm not trying to be mean, because the thing is, I figured I would cover this because I don't know Def Noodles, but I've heard that he's been getting a lot of hate online, and I've heard him discussed on different channels because I do consume a lot of YouTube content. But I personally have nothing against Def Noodles. I don't know Def Noodles at all. I'm not the most familiar with his content. So I thought I'd be a good person to talk about this and watch it because I don't hate him. So I felt like I could look at it in an objective way and just be like, this is what's going on. This is what I like. This is what I didn't like. I mentioned my friend Arthur Hamilton. I ended up just seeing him by surprise on the video, and I was watching him, and I was so disappointed in watching him because, like I said, I like Arthur. I think he's talented. But when all you're doing during the video is just saying, that's weird, and then you go back to the green room, and then you come back later, and you're still just like saying, that's weird. I mean, he said, that's weird, so many times. I began to feel like that might be Arthur's get her done. Why do you keep saying that? Why didn't you go back and maybe write some jokes or come up with some comebacks or think about something other than just saying, that's weird? And I admit it was kind of a situation out of control, but that's what we have to deal with as comics, especially if your leader, who is Def Noodles in this particular situation, he owns the comedy club or the space that they're calling a comedy club. Right now, I wouldn't call that a comedy club because that's not the way a comedy club runs at all. I've never been to a comedy club or seen a comedy club that runs in such an unprofessional way. So what happened was Def Noodles issued this challenge to other YouTubers saying, pull up or shut up, which apparently this guy Salvo decided to pull up. Salvo has some kind of connection with Red Bar. I'm not the most familiar with Red Bar, but I have seen a few of his things before. He's like a comedy commentary channel. He does have some very strong opinions. I kind of stay away from a lot of that stuff, so I haven't made it a point to continue to watch his content. I watched maybe 1 or 2 episodes, and I was like, okay, I get the idea. So Red Bar likes to troll. And when Def Noodles put out his challenge to other YouTubers, pull up or shut up, I guess Salvo had expressed that he really wanted to pull up. And so Red Bar helped fund this from what I was able to gather from watching a video on Salvo's channel. I did do a fair amount of research, so don't think I just went into this dry, as they would say, but I didn't watch everything. You know, I didn't go real backlog or into the deep cuts or whatever. I just kind of checked out what I thought was pertinent. So I saw there was a video that was a follow-up where Def Noodles was talking about it, because what happened was this guy Salvo took the challenge. So Salvo shows up the day before the show and is knocking on the windows of the comedy club while it's closed and saying, I have a roast battle here tomorrow. I'm here for a tour of the comedy club that I'm going to be performing at. Well, I know that was probably just a troll, but he said it in a way almost like that was a customary thing. And I will tell you, as a person that's performed at comedy clubs all over the country, I've been doing this for 19 years, stand-up comedy for 19 years. And that is not customary anywhere, especially to knock on the windows and say it. Even if you're trying to troll or whatever, I would never show up to a comedy club and be like, I need a tour of the comedy club. I need a tour of the comedy club that I'm going to be performing at. So when Def Noodles said that was like, unacceptable, I do agree with that. But at the same time, if you're both more on the YouTube side and recording content, you got to expect that kind of stuff is going to happen. So Def Noodles made a video that was very disingenuous, saying that he felt threatened and whatever else. And it's like, you didn't feel threatened. If you felt threatened, what you would have done is you would have had somebody that represents the club go outside and tell him, or you would have DM'd him later on that day and said, look, our roast battle is off. That's not going to happen. Your behavior feels threatening or feels a little bit unhinged. It's not at all professional. It's not at all the kind of situation or the environment that we're trying to foster here. And so that's the way that would have been handled if you really felt threatened about it. You liked that it was making content and it was going to sell some tickets. So what happened was Def Noodles said that he had some tickets left over, that they had sold out all of the tickets that they put out so far, but they may be able to squeeze some people in. And then he charged $50 for the tickets from there on out, which tells me he knew that those were going to be Salvo's people, or had an idea that was going to be Salvo's people. And I don't blame you for that move. If you want to make some extra money because these people are possibly going to be a headache and not really worth your time, then go ahead and do that. I don't have a problem with that at all. But understand that you are now courting this negative attention. So what happened was, on the night of the show, Salvo gets on stage. That's what I showed earlier, was Salvo gets on stage, starts a fuck Def Noodles chant, starts a red bar chant. They're really trolling him in his own place now. And that would be completely unacceptable in a comedy setting. It just wouldn't ever happen in a comedy club where you just decide to get on stage. And Def Noodles had said that, at his comedy club, which is the space that he shoots his podcast, but just, I guess, a bigger room that they have, that they had hired extra security. Well, you must have told your extra security not to do anything about that, which again is you making it so that this is going to happen, or allowing this to happen. So his security does nothing about it. This guy starts a chant. And then I guess Def Noodles got annoyed by it. He decided he wanted to start the show. And instead of having security come address the guy and say, hey, you've got to take your seat now. You're not allowed to be on stage. Please calm down. Wait until your battle starts. Because, in theory or technically, Def Noodles and Salvo are supposed to battle. So if they're supposed to roast battle, they would obviously be in the main event. That means you sit down in your seat and you shut up until your battle happens. So what happens is, instead, Def Noodles pushed him in the back, which, like I said, is what you saw at the beginning. So he pushes him in the back, and then he decides to hide behind his security and his other comics instead of, because once you push somebody in the back, you've kind of started it. And so, I didn't really respect that move, like hiding behind your friends after you push somebody in the back, but whatever. It is what it is. We move on. So then at some point, Salvo decides that he's going to start handing out posters to people in the audience, because it's a lot of his people are there. Def Noodle said the tickets were already pretty much sold out, or by the time, he did the extra tickets. But honestly, from the reactions and what it showed of the crowd shots, 90% of those people were there for Salvo. There's a point where Salvo says that if they weren't there, there would be nobody there. And it's when Arthur Hamilton is doing
That's weird.
and asking them why they're there. And then Salvo hits him with the,
If we were here, there would be nobody in the crowd.
which, Salvo really did get him with that. And I understand, I have nothing against either of these people. It's just the conduct that I'm talking about, and the way that this makes not only roast battle, but just stand-up. It looks like a free-for-all, and that's not really what stand-up is. We have a roast battle here in Las Vegas. They're kind of popping up everywhere. The roast battle in Las Vegas is held at Wise Guys. It's the last Monday of every month. And I just, judged for them last week. I've judged for both of them now, but just last week I judged for them, or this Monday that just passed. It was really fun, a really good time. The comics are really respectful. And I've seen it used in that way before when it's people that don't like each other. But the best battles usually come from people that like each other, people that respect each other, people that are friends and just want to have a good roast, you know? But also, roast battle originated when Kenny Lyon, a comedian by the name of Kenny Lyon, an LA comedian that's like a little brother to me, and a comedian by the name of Josh Martin, really hated each other. So they decided, instead of them fighting, because they were thinking about boxing or slap boxing, that kind of thing, and it was suggested that instead of them fighting, they go ahead and do a roast battle, and that's where roast battle in this form was born. Then Jeffrey Ross got involved with it, and then it just became a bigger thing. It just snowballed, and so that's where it actually comes from. If I were Brian Moses, because this roast battle is so bad, I would send them a cease and desist, because I think the name roast battle is actually trademarked. So Def Noodles even using that name to me is like unacceptable. It's not being run in a professional way. Like the way they're doing it, also the other way that made it suck, because like they keep blaming the fact that it was Salvo's people that were there that made it so it was such a terrible show. No, I watched it objectively, and I'm used to watching roast battles, and it just sucked. All of the jokes sucked. All of the comics sucked. I'm sorry to the comics, but you all just sucked. There was a gay comic, and I don't say this because I'm gay too, but there was a gay comic, I think his name was Elliot Mack. He was actually funny. He was actually good, but he was trying his best, you know, at least. And a lot of the others were just terrible, and it's done in a way, usually you get to know like 2 or 3 weeks, possibly a month in advance, who you're going to be battling, and you can write jokes that are customized to them. A lot of times comics will go to a coffee house together, and they'll like share their deepest, darkest secrets and the worst things that have happened in their lives, so that they can actually write about each other if they don't know each other. And so, like, there's a way that roast battle works. And when I heard that there were LA's hottest comics, I mean, like, I know enough about LA. I was there for 14 years. I haven't been there for 5, except for at one point I went back to do some Comedy Central thing that was like a debate, but it was fun. But anyway, that was probably 4 years ago. So I haven't been there in 4 years at least. So I don't really know the scene that well, but I know that those aren't LA superstars. I know those aren't the names that anybody's talking about. I know that for a fact. There was a guy named Louis Digits that they said was an improv comedian, or he performs at the Improv. He's not an improv paid regular, I guarantee you that. Not with that terrible material or whatever he was doing. And I know some LA comics are going to get mad at me for talking this way about the comics that were on this show, but I don't really care about you and your little friends. I hang out with real comedians, and I can tell real comedians when I actually see them. So a lot of what I was seeing was completely unprofessional and doesn't need to be on YouTube altogether, let alone live stream. Which that was the other thing. The sound kept going out on the stream, which I get it. I've had that problem too, because I stream an open mic that I run at Ocha Bar here in Las Vegas. It's called the Thai Comedy Dojo. It happens on Thursday nights. Sign-ups at 10. Shows happens at 11. Like how I'm putting all the plugs in. But I have that show, and we were live streaming it for a while there, and then we started having technical difficulties, and I was like, okay, live stream isn't the best way to do this, plus I can get better quality if I just record it and then cut clips from there, which is what I would suggest to Def Noodles and his crew. If they're going to continue to do this debacle, then at least have it come out looking the best that it can come out looking, because what happened with this situation was the sound kept going out. And with the sound, like at first it really was getting on my nerves that the sound kept going out, but the comedy was so bad at a point that it gave me relief when the sound would go out, because it was like, good, now I don't have to listen to this, because it was bad. I mean, I'm not even being mean, I'm not being catty, I'm not being sarcastic. It just was bad. And so then there's a point where a girl comes out and throws a drink on that guy Salvo, which I don't know what made her do that, but that should not happen, especially when you see that the girl came from the green room. So she's in some way involved with the show or hanging out with someone from the show. Even if Def Noodles didn't like what was going on, if you're supposed to be a comedy club owner, you don't do that. Also, Def Noodles should have realized at the beginning, if he wasn't going to be the best to host it because he's going to be a distraction and Salvo's people are going to keep heckling him, maybe have a neutral host come out, somebody that they don't know, not reference that, because every comedian that was coming out from backstage was referencing that right away, which I don't ever do that when I'm in a hostile situation, because I have been in a fair amount of hostile situations, but I don't ever do that because I feel like when I get to the audience, they're they're brand new to me. They may not hate me. They may hate Def Noodles, but that doesn't mean because I'm on this show, they necessarily hate me. So I treat it like a clean slate. So to me, that was a rookie mistake that every comedian was coming out and attacking the audience, because it's like, yeah, they may hate Def Noodles and they may be here on behalf of Salvo, but that doesn't mean that I have to have a shitty experience with them. They don't know me at all, and they don't know that I'm connected to Def Noodles, if I'm even connected to Def Noodles. A lot of times you're not even connected to the club owner. You're just kind of there to do your set or there to be part of the roast. And so that was a mistake too, was that everybody just kept addressing them. There was no reason for that. And so Def Noodles should have removed himself, and then he maybe would have had less problems and been able to at least have a good showing or a good show for his live stream if he's going to live stream it. That did not happen. Then there was also the fact, like I said, when they had the roasters, they were basically picking them out of a bucket is what it looked like, and then just having people randomly roast each other. Well, that's only going to give you the most superficial, the most surface level jokes, and you haven't even had a chance to actually think about them. So it's like on the spot roasting, which a lot of people aren't good at that. David Lucas, shout out to David Lucas. David Lucas can do that on his Instagram Live, where he'll just roast people. They'll come up on his Instagram Live, that he'll connect them, have them join him on Instagram Live, and it's really funny the way he does it. But David Lucas, when it comes to roasting, is just a different level. Like he really is something special when it comes to roasting. He's a great comic too. I love David Lucas all the way around. But not everybody's going to be a David Lucas, and the people that were on this show definitely were not in the David Lucas category. Even a little bit. And again, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be catty, but again, I'm a comedian. So I'm used to seeing these things, and I know how they should go, and that ain't it, Chief. So this is what I noticed that happened, it was just completely unprofessional. And with Def Noodles, like I said, at the beginning of the show when the guy got on stage, that's when he should have just said, hey, you can't do that, or had security come out and say that. That was it. Just, you got to conduct yourself like a professional if you're going to be here. Yes, let's have fun. Yes, let's roast each other. At the end, they could have given us a good showing. Another thing that I didn't respect at the end was, at the end, Def Noodles finally did allow Salvo his time to come on stage, and it was supposed to be the roast, but then he said that he wasn't going to roast him, or he wasn't going to allow him to roast him. He wasn't going to give him the mic. Well, you let him and his people stay for the entire show, and then at the very end, you say you're not going to let him roast, you're not going to give him a mic, because of the way he's behaved in the entire show. But you had several chances to kick him out earlier in the show, but now you decide this, and then you're pretending like you're doing some sort of survey. But I'm hip to what was going on. What was happening was Salvo was saying that they were kicking his people out, and what Def Noodles was trying to do was tip the odds in his favor by getting rid of Salvo's people while he was pretending to get that survey. So he had a security getting rid of Salvo's people while he's stalling so they can get rid of them to tip the odds in his favor so that he can possibly have a better set or a better chance at roasting Salvo. So he finally decides to give Salvo the mic. He gives Salvo the mic, and Salvo says that instead of roasting him, he's going to do an hour-long monologue. And that's when, again, if you're running the show, if you're in charge of the show, that's when you would just say, no, that's not the format of this. This is supposed to be a roast. We're all doing 3 jokes each. It goes 3 jokes each. And then they were doing this other thing where they do another 3 jokes each, which is pointless and makes no sense to me. But I guess whatever. It's their rules. They want to do it. They do it the way they want to. But he doesn't. So Salvo says he's not going to go by that format. Well, right there, that's when you, as the person that runs show, or the person that's going to referee the roast battle, because obviously Def Noodles isn't going to be able to referee his own roast battle. The way that you would do that at that point is you would be like, okay, well then, if you don't want to do it by that format, then that's an automatic disqualification. And then you can be within your rights to take the mic at that point, because it's like, okay, if you don't want to play by the rules of the show, then you're not on the show. That's just the way it works. People get disqualified in the real roast battle every once in a while too. Then there was a point where, because there was no control in this show, and the audience was coming up with some of the best comebacks. So I don't have anything against the audience for doing what they were doing. Really, I don't have anything against Salvo for doing what he was doing. I don't have anything against Def Noodles for doing what he was doing. I just think that it could have been more professionally run in all ways possible. When it comes to Salvo, like I said, I really don't mind him doing what he's doing because he's a YouTube troll towards Def Noodles. I don't know if that's his all the time thing, is just trolling, but towards Def Noodles, he's a troll. So it's his job to make as much trouble as he can, get away with everything he can, push the envelope, push the limit. As far as what he was doing for what he is, that's what he was supposed to do, and he was doing things the right way. But as far as Def Noodles and talking about like the way things work at a comedy club, yes, you should run your comedy club in a professional way, even if you are a YouTuber and you're still going to court the YouTube controversy. I get that, but you've got to run your show and your club in a professional way. Like, he brought up the Comedy Store when he was doing his talk afterwards, and he was like, if this were the Comedy Store or any other comedy club, he would have got his ass kicked. No, that wouldn't have happened at all. Those clubs are worth millions of dollars. Whether you believe it or know it or not, the property alone that the Comedy Store is sitting on is worth $20 million at least. It's right on Sunset. The property that the Improv is on Melrose. That also multi-million-dollar property. They don't fuck around kicking people's asses. I mean, you can get your ass kicked. If it's a legally employable tactic at that point, then that can happen. But it's very unlikely that it'll happen. There have been some very unruly situations that I personally have witnessed at both of those clubs, which I am very well known at both of those clubs. I'm a paid regular at the Improv. I was an unpaid regular at the Comedy Store. I'm very clear about that. Unpaid regular at the Comedy Store. But I had been around the Comedy Store forever, for the entire 14 years that I was in LA. And I've seen some really out of control situations get handled in a professional manner where security does their best to get the person off the property without a physical altercation or an actual incident. That has happened quite a bit. And I've seen it with my own eyes. And because these properties are worth so much money and they don't want to risk a lawsuit, it's not a situation where they would have gotten their ass kicked. All that would have happened was, when it first started, if the security felt generous, they would have given them just a warning. And then if the behavior continued, they would have kicked the person out. So that's my assessment of what happened. That's the way I feel about the drama. That's the way I feel like everybody involved dealt with it. If you're a comedian and you decide to comment in my YouTube comments, I get that. It's fair. It's part of the game. I don't have a problem with it. But as far as hitting me up in my DMs and telling me how you feel about the things I say, understand that I don't care and you're just going to get blocked. I really don't. I think a lot of the comedians that were on the show embarrassed themselves. I think if Def Noodles is going to identify as a comedian, he should start acting like one. I think Salvo is a YouTuber, and like I said, I get what he's doing, but if Salvo identifies as a comedian, he needs to do better too. So that would be my advice to everybody involved in this situation, is just do better. Anyway, I hope that gives you guys some insight into comedy and the way that roast battle works, and I hope that I didn't miss anything, but there's a good chance I did. Anyway, this has been Thai Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.